time here. It's been a while. I thought I'd do a general update. In the community every week I do a 2-3 hour live session where we go a lot deeper into stuff, but I thought I would give a broad thing about things. So first of all, someone said I withhold comments. I don't. On my YouTube thingy, I have to approve every comment. I read every comment, but the reason I don't just allow free comments is because the amount of bots is just absolutely ridiculous. So if here's what I see every day. So 7 hours ago, right, I don't, if you go to held, the amount of spam bots is ridiculous. And you can see it straight away. You know, there's people trying to trap people into putting in this fake seed phrase here. There's scammers everywhere. And the amount of bots, like you can see, so straight away, so all these are just scam. And also, you'll see brand new shitcoins using like social media bots. So for example, XAI901K is an obvious shitcoin because my every video is just being plastered with XA901K. Like every single comment pretty much at the moment is from bots. So just, yeah, which is interesting. So for me, it's just an instant red flag. So I wouldn't touch XA901K or whatever it is with the barge pole. And I have to siphon, go through every single one of these just to make sure I'm not deleting real user comments. And it goes on for ages. So yeah, I don't withhold comments, even if it's a negative one. I approve it, but I literally have to go through all of this shit. So it's either someone going, "Hey, here's my seed phrase," or it's a shit bot like this. So what I'm going to quickly do is just delete everything. Delete. Bye. Right. So let's crack on with stuff. So let's look at the charts. First of all, the VIX, the volatility index, this is the global fear index effectively. Every time we have some sort of spike up into the red, markets panic and everyone goes, oh, it's the end of the bull market or whatever. It happens all the time. If we zoom out on the weekly, you can see that this is very cyclical. So yeah, I wouldn't worry. I tend to get nervous actually when we get down into the green zone because it means that everyone's, you know, thumb in bum, mind in neutral, happy as Larry, and then all of a sudden a trigger comes along and you go, and then spooks the market. So really what's happened recently is we've had dollar strength. And that's because Jerome Powell recently came out and went, hey, it looks like we're not going to reduce rates that much next year. And, you know, we see a strong dollar, yada, yada, yada. And his nose grew by a meter. So what happened is that the dollar gained strength recently after Jerome said that, and when dollar goes up, all assets pretty much go down because when you're valuing something, the S&P 500, what are you valuing that against? The dollar. And so that's why everything had a mini spook down. So if we go to the daily chart, you see boom, sell off, and we saw sell-offs in most markets, but like with anything these days, we have quick recoveries. But the thing is, Trump's now coming in, and regardless who's going to be in government, governments will have to print. It's maths at the end of the day. The debt, the interest rates are spiraling out of control. It's exponential growth, so they will have to print. And if there's wars or a cyber attack or another bullshit COVID or whatever, there's going to be more printing. So ultimately, if there is some sort of black swan, grey swan event, and we have a spook in the markets and everything tumbles, like what's happening because of the way that the world economies work, we're going to see V reversals. So the amount of time a crash is experienced is being compressed because they just print their way out of Dodge. I mean, you look at the worst thing that's pretty much ever happened to the world markets, which is 2020. We're out of that within like 6 months, and that's because we just print our way out of oblivion. So if there is a crash, and there's so many big macro metrics which are pointing out to a crash this year or early next year, I wouldn't worry too much about your pot because it will get nuked down and then they'll nuke it back up with quantitative support or whatever they want to call it. So I wouldn't worry. If we look at, in fact, I'm not actually allowed to, draw lines on regulated assets. So let's move on. Let's look at total crypto market cap. So this is my main barometer of crypto health. So if we look at the weekly chart, this is like the most bullish chart. If you ever scared, just go back to this chart and go, oh shit, total crypto market cap is still just caterpillaring up and down this curve I drew years ago. And so my cop-out answer is how high crypto is going to go is at some point this year, Q4 this year most likely, we're going to see anywhere between say 6 trillion to 15 trillion. And all the technicals are still playing out. Like every time we have roughly a year before the high, we have a fall in compression, then a breakout, had it here, and we've had this one here. Even if you zoom in, we've had a smaller one that's just breaking out. So yeah, things are looking good. If you look at total market cap excluding Bitcoin and ETH, we get this picture. So at the moment we are sort of struggling to get above this resistance. But I wouldn't be at all surprised to see by the end of this year getting anywhere into this hole here. I'll leave that hole there. So if the total crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin and ETH could get somewhere around here, I mean Bitcoin, what is total crypto market cap going to be? A lot higher. So that's going to be pretty interesting. And again, it's not a chart you need to be worried about, but I always look at how is Bitcoin doing against USM2, because pretty much every asset on the planet performs very badly against USM2 other than Bitcoin. So looking at M2, so global liquidity is I wouldn't say they're printing, we're exiting QT is basically what's happening. The amount of central banks which are tightening is easing. So you can see here, so cross-border cap has epic charts, and you can see that the red wave of tightening is easing. So we're not in a stimulus or stimulatory sort of a state yet, and we will eventually. We will see dark green eventually, and then that boosts our bags. If you look at global liquidity is still pumping up. So, and this should carry on until sort of end of this year, early next year. And that's when the fun and games really kicks in, because there is a little bit of a lag from liquidity coming in. So let's get rid of that. USM2 hasn't painted since November time, so this is out of date, but it's going to be a lot higher. But long story short, M2 still going up. Crazy thing is, so USM2 grows about 15-16% per year. And I was very pessimistic. I was just using 10% per year. Look what happens over the next 20 or so. So by 2052, I don't know why this is not, maybe if we zoom out a bit into, say, a 12-month. Look what happens. Let's zoom maybe a 3-month. So at just a 10% cadence, not 15%, which it actually is, by 2052, we get to like 350 trillion in M2, unless something crazy changes. In reality, it's going to be a lot higher, because it's going to be something like that, but it's just nuts. And what does that mean for capital assets, especially real-world deflationary assets like Bitcoin? I mean, it's just going to go up. So everyone that thinks that 100k Bitcoin is too expensive, or $1 million Bitcoin is too, $1 Bitcoin is too expensive, you're grossly mistaking what's actually going to happen. M2 can only go up, and whether it's over the next 10, 20 years, whatever, Bitcoin is in a real world, but in real terms is deflationary. I know it emits what was it, 3.125 Bitcoin every 10 minutes, so 450 Bitcoin a day, but it's net deflationary. Especially Ethereum. Ethereum's tokenomics is actually much better. So yeah, Bitcoin and Ethereum is going to go up over the long term. I can't see a scenario where that does not play out, personally. If you look at the amount of the amount of Bitcoin that the ETFs are gobbling up, it's still growing. We had a bit of a wobble here, but it's not much. It's still going up. If we look at sort of the net value of these ETFs, we're starting to tick upwards now. So they're increasing the amount of Bitcoin within the ETFs, and the price of Bitcoin is going up. So this is good for all of the BTFs. And you can see, if you look at the BlackRock one, look at the cumulative net flow, it's looking good. So yeah, ETFs still going strong. And if you're ever wondering what happens when a big ETF comes in, 2003 is when the gold ETF was launched. And what happened from 2003 onwards, which is, this line here, it went to the moon. Well, relatively speaking. This is the log chart. There we go. Let's get in the linear. So that was when the gold ETF happened, and Bitcoin will do exactly the same thing. Getting in, I don't like on-chain analytics that much these days, but I keep an eye on them every now and then. The pure multiple, so this shows sort of miners' stress and whatnot. I wouldn't worry about cycle highs until we get into the red, and we're nowhere near that. Most on-chain analytics are showing that we're sort of mid-bull market, really. Mind you, there are some that are showing that we're getting a bit overheated, which I disagree with personally. If you're looking at the hodl waves, if you look at the short-term hands coming in, we're seeing a bit of a spike up in the short term. So if we look at these darker colors, this is wallets 24 hours to, let's say, a month. That's starting to spike up, which shows retail are now starting to come in a bit more, which is interesting. The thing that is mildly, not concerning is the wrong word, mildly alerted, is that we're seeing some of the bigger, older pots starting to effectively sell off a bit. So if you look at the long-term holder supply, which is this blue stuff here, we've had a sharp drop. And one of the things I've noticed over the years is that whenever you have a sharp drop in the long-term holder supply, that shows the beginning, or because the big money, they sell into the bull market, if that makes sense. They sell all the way up. They don't wait for the pico high and then try and time their exit. They exit as things go up. So if you look at in the 2015-ish cycle, they're selling off into the bull market. Again with 2018, you see throughout 2017 they were slowly selling into that bull market. So they actually sell sort of mid-curve, mid market. So the fact that they're starting to sell off now, again, tells me that things are going to go up even further. You can see here, they started selling in 2020, all throughout the beginning of 2021. And then markets peaked sort of April. Maybe we could see something similar as the 2021. Who knows? Again, looking at the short-term holder supply, we can see that starting to spike up. So retail is coming in. Again, Bitcoin maxis must be loving this. I mean, technically, I'm a Bitcoin maxi to a degree, but the amount of people that are now adopting a strategic Bitcoin reserve is increased, which is increasing. I mean, all of my companies have had a strategic Bitcoin or crypto reserve since 2017, but it's good that the big ones are now doing this. Obviously, Sailor leading the pack, but this is good. I like this cadence. If you look at the Mayer multiple, this is really showing deviations above some ratios, but long story short, we're nowhere near this red line, which is when you need to start sort of getting slightly concerned when we look at the deviations from the Mayer multiple. But again, mid bull market, and also when we're looking at the profits. So I quite like this for cycle highs. You have to look at the quarterly ROI. Really, that's the tell here. When we have crazy spikes in the quarterly ROI, that shows good sort of cycle highs, pretty much. We're nowhere near yet, so we need to really get above this 200% level, and then start phasing out quite possibly. And again, if you looking at hash rate, still trucking up. So everything is positive. Everything is healthy. Everything looks great. Nothing to really complain about. In terms of where the alt market, oh yeah, Tether. Sorry, I forgot about Tether. Everyone's worried about Tether. Tether's a crypto cockroach. You can't kill it. Everyone's overly worried about that. For a while, I was, had 25% of my whole pot in Tether. Wasn't worried. I'm fully deployed now. But it's still the biggest stable by far. USDC is, what is that, a third of this? I wouldn't worry. Tether just keeps on going up these little lines. It's actually overpacing what I thought the growth of Tether would be. But yeah, USDC is growing up. Obviously because of the Tether scares. So yeah. But there's no sort of depegging. So I've been monitoring is it going to lose its peg? No, is the answer. I don't see that happening. If anything, USDC is more volatile than USDT. Well, about the same, but it's mildly irrelevant. Now, alt market. What the hell is going on, and when moon? So I've watched the ETH Bitcoin ratio for years now, because historically when ETH kicks off, gets its running shoes on against Bitcoin, that's the alt market. But these days, the alt market is not just ETH, it's, there's loads of others. So the ETH Bitcoin ratio is losing relevance as time goes on, but it's still relevant for this cycle. And so the only thing that's constant with crypto is, or Bitcoin at least, is the halving. So these big vertical lines here are the halvings. And if you look into each cycle, the pivot low of the ETH Bitcoin cycle, so when ETH starts really kicking up northwards in the bull market, that's when the alt market rallies. So here, this is the weekly chart. So 25 weeks post halving, alt market goes nuts, and that was the 2017 rally. If we take the peak, the pivot over here, this was 34 weeks post halving, and then it goes nuts. And where are we now? Where is that local low there? 30 weeks post halving. Yeah. So as you can see, for years I've expected the ETH ratio to hit these holes. Obviously it's happened here. I thought it would happen a little bit earlier. The hole got filled. That's all I care about. And now I'm waiting for this hole to get filled up here. So we're just waiting. It's just taking a little bit longer. We need someone to prod ETH with a stick, and so alt can kick off. So whether that's low, I think that is the local low. Another way to look at the alt market is look at the market share. So I hate the word dominance. It's not dominance, it's market share. It shows the same picture really. So if you look at, so these are the halvings again, you can again measure the halving. So when Bitcoin makes starts falling, so you have to measure it from the halving to when it really starts falling. Here, 34 weeks from this cycle. It's going to show you the pretty much similar picture here. So from there to where dominance starts falling, again 35 weeks post halving. And where are we now? We are from the halving to 30 weeks, or where are we now? 35. Yeah, so the alt market should start really now really January, February is when the alt market should start, and then we get into a question of, okay, where's Bitcoin going to go? So I've expected this market share to hit 60% for years now. We've finally got there, so that's my curse. I'm always early. Always premature. So we've now breached this support level here, and we koboed off of it nicely. So it broke it, kissed off, buggering off, hopefully. Just needs to breach this big fat blue line, and then we're really getting, we're getting down there. This is my high prob target. I think the Bitcoin market share is very highly likely, like I'm almost certain it's going to get to this hole. So call it 42 to 44%. And there is a confluence of support here from this resistance and this support down here. If alts go crazy, I mean, I thought really, I'm losing faith in this target here. Just seeing the amount of strategic, the US government's going to be buying 1 million Bitcoin over the next 60 months. And in that mandate, they can't touch it. They can't move it. They can't sell it for 20 years. And even 20 years post hodl, they can only sell no more than 10% of the supply. So, like, the US government's going to be the biggest hodler of Bitcoin by a country mile. So I think, yeah, this is I drew this back in, it was probably actually mid 2023. I think the high prob target here is around 45% for Bitcoin market share. So where does that leave us? So let's take 2%. If I am correct, and we look at total crypto market cap being, I don't know, I think it's going to be at the higher end. Let's call it 12 trillion. So, my computer's just updated to Windows 11. I held out for as long as possible, and now it's just messed up all my apps. 12 trillion times, let's call it 42%. That puts Bitcoin at a $5 trillion market cap. And then the circulating supply. So if you just go to BTC, I mean, I could work this out because it's only 450 Bitcoin a day, but I'm just going to use, what's the circulating supply? That, I don't know, let's just call it 19.9 million. So we do 5.0, let's call it 5 trillion. So 5 trillion, 50 billion, 500 billion, 5 trillion, divided by 19.9 million, did we say? That gives us 250k Bitcoin, plus or minus, I don't know, 100k, let's say. Yeah, it makes sense. It's what I've been expecting for a while. So these are my fractal cycles, which I created in 2017. I mean, back then I was like, we only had like one data point really. So I didn't, as time has progressed, my cycles have, been held up pretty well. But yeah, I've always expected around 200k for Bitcoin this cycle, Q4. Obviously the ETFs and all, the Trump and all that, it's just brought the market up higher a bit faster than my original blue ghost feed down here. So actually I think it's probably going to be a bit higher, so yeah, 250-ish, plus or minus 100k. Yeah, and then whatever that high will be, you divide it by 2.7, that should give you the low. So yeah, that 74k is 200k divided by 2.7. That's my multiple thing. Don't worry about that. That's something I'll talk about in the community. Yeah, this is interesting. I've had this theory for a while, and I've got only loose evidence that I think Bitcoin and China are, the world's biggest Bitcoin holders and miners, really. I know technically it's the US, but post-sanctions, when the Ukraine war happened and then we started sanctioning the shit out of Russia, what happened to the hash rate? It went whee! And we just forced Russia into Bitcoin, really. So, yeah, and that's only going to continue. I think this year is the year where we finally realise, they reveal that Russia is probably the world's biggest player in Bitcoin, or the second, or top three at least. So, right, let's look at, what else is there? Yeah, so, yeah, let's look at my beloved TAO. So if we look at the daily chart, so ignore these things up. Long story short, when everyone gets worried, but look at TAO from a log chart perspective. I mean, it's just beautiful. Parallel trend line curves, they only last for a little bit of time. So I think a year is probably the maximum you can sort of look at straight line parallels like this. Because really with everything, there's sort of diminishing returns over time. But for now, I think, I'm expecting a lot higher than 10k for TAO. My prediction has always been 2 to 4% of total crypto market cap. So this is why I look at the total chart quite a lot. And so, I do this all the time. Let's just be mildly pessimistic. Let's, the retail market pushed up to 3 trillion. Now we've got the big boys in. Let's just say we only hit $8 trillion market cap. Now, where's that calculator gone again? So let's be mildly, just be pessimistic. So that's 800 billion, 8 trillion. So let's say I'm wrong by 100% and TAO is only 1% market share. Okay, 1% of it's still 80 billion, and I know that the tokenomic sort of distribution curve says 10.5 million by the 1st of December 2025, but with detail coming in and the emissions a bit slower, so realistically look at 10.3 million circulating supply by end of year. So that, divide that by 10.3 million, you're still looking at 7,000, 8,000 TAO. What's it now? 532. So divide that by 532. So pessimistically, that's a 14x, and that's 1% market share. Realistically, when you look at the narratives of every cycle, the top 3 coins of each narrative of each cycle is 2 to 4% market share, which is why I keep talking about this thing. So, you know, the narrative of this cycle is AI. It will be people talking about agentic AI. I've always called it AAAs, so autonomous AI agents. That's going to be big. I mean, that's like the DeFi or rebasing DAOs of this cycle. It's all AI. So the top 2 or 3 projects of AI crypto, Bittensor is my main play, will be at least 2%. So if we go back to this same old analogy, it's times 2 of that. So, you know, 14, 15K. So, but yeah. So that's that. Casper, I sold all of my Casper around 18 cents. I did three exits, 18 cents, 17 cents, 16 cents on the way down here. And bear in mind, people think I don't like Casper. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's the best, you know, it's the best settlement layer that you can dream of, and it's breaking all sorts of world records. But don't forget, I've ridden this really nicely. I've put in substantial funds from 1.8 cents upwards. And for me, at the moment, it just doesn't have enough upside as TAO. So, you know, I'm really not interested until it breaks north of sort of 20 cents. And it will. But remember, I'm a trader. So I've been looking at the TAO KAS chart for a long time. And from a trading perspective, just look at this. We have a Russian doll of bottoming signals here. We have head and shoulders caked on upon other head and shoulders and other head and shoulders. It's just one massive bottoming pattern when you're looking at it from a bigger perspective. And so this is why I drew this massive aubergine here like a while back. Like, this is where this chart will go. Like, unfortunately, Casper's playing into the narrative of 2017. So it'll do very well, but it won't have the same upside because this cycle is all about AI, and therefore, you know, TAO or AI projects will be riding that hype narrative, whereas Casper won't. Again, recently we had this falling sort of channel, and again, this was from these doodles from a live session back last year, and I said that, you know, we're going to carry on going down this channel, and it will break out at some point. I don't know where, either it will go there or down and then up, the down and up, and it looks like the third one came true. I didn't expect it to be so harsh to the downside here, because obviously Casper had that little sort of spurt of activity, but this is what's happening, and it's just going to continue going up. So yeah, and that's why my pot is more, you know, mainly TAO. In terms of desired portfolio, I'll just quickly look at ETH, because ETH on the I think ETH is an easy 15k this cycle, easy. From a I guess a multiple perspective, it's pretty pants, because you're looking at, you know, let's say 15k ETH divided by 3620, we're only looking at a 4x. But, you know, anything with an ETF and anything that BlackRock is ETFing is a safe bet, you know, because they're not going to let that go to zero. So yeah, this is easy 15k, somewhere in this hole up here. So easy 4x, Bitcoin's an easy 2x from here. In my opinion, TAO is an easy 10 to 20x from here. And a lot of people talking about Sui as well. I've never been the biggest fan of Sui because I've always seen it as a VC profit protection / creation play. Yeah, this is just VC central. We've been following it all the way down here, and I think it will continue to go up. I don't like Sui at all. It's not really an AI play in my perspective, in my opinion. But you can do the same old maths. So using that 8 trillion total market cap, could Sui hit at least 1%? Yeah, it could. So that's an $80 billion market cap. 80 billion. And then you can do the same math. So what's the circulating supply? I think it's like 3.5 billion, something like that, off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've done this calc for this. So 3 billion, but obviously it's still being emitted. I think let's use it's going to be a while. I don't know what the circulating supply will be, Q4 this year, but let's just use 3.1 billion. I thought it was 3.5. Let's use 3.5 off the top of my head. 3.5 billion circulating supply. 500. Yeah, that gives us a $22 Sui. So divide that by $5. Again, you're looking at 4 or 5x. But I think realistically, Sui is probably, because it's got the hype and it's got the people back it. It's more like a 2% of total market cap. So it's $160 billion. 160 billion, divide that by 3.5 billion circulating supply. $45. So yeah, divide that by 5. Yeah, I just see more upside with TAO. That's all, personally. Yeah, so that's that. A lot of people like Sol. Yeah, again, Sol will continue going up. Pretty much everything's going to go up these days. Anything AI or AI related. Now, in terms of pot allocation, so one of the things which where am I? Everyone always asks me, what split should I do? Yada yada yada. I always come back to this, and I say this is a nice desired pot composition. So, this is my base recommendation for those in my community. I say, be heavy on TAO. Have other AI coins. There's loads of smaller market cap coins out there which will have higher upside simply because they're smaller. $100 million market cap AI coin will go up many multiples higher than Bittensor because this is a multi-billion-dollar project. So so have other AI coins, whether you have them as spot or you go long, with derivatives, is your call. I have a what if I'm wrong pot. So for me personally, the what if I'm wrong pot is Bitcoin, ETH, and Sui, and other bits and bobs, and then you've got the meme pot, and then my levered pot. So these are perpetuals, but it's a little bit more complicated than that because I've got several different pots. I've got my hedge fund pot, I've got my private equity pot, I've got my personal pot. My personal pot is a bit more aggressive than everything else because I don't mind the volatility, but a lot of people do. So my hedge fund pot and my private equity pot, they're a bit more defensive. And obviously things change. So this here, this is my aggressive personal pot. So it may look like I'm less bullish on TAO. It's not the case because I've put in a massive levered long on TAO. On the levered pot. So a lot of this is a levered long on TAO. And I've got Zappy and TAO Nu. These are TAO related meme coins or shit coins, whatever. And again, we've got some memes there. So for my personal pot, my what if I'm wrong pot is really Bitcoin, ETH, and Sui there. But for my sort of the much bigger pots, because I'm way more active in this pot over here. So for the private equity pot and hedge fund pot, it's more like this. Let's send this to front. Bring to front. There we go. So again, and you also have to look at exchange risk because anything in your trading pot that's on an exchange, right? Unless you play with GMX and stuff, but the fees are just extortionate on DEXs and DEX perpetuals. So it's pretty safe because TAO's in a cold hard wallet, Bitcoin's in a cold hard wallet. The ETH that I've got is not. So going back to this, certain parts of the pot will sort of have like, not permutations, but they straddle different pots. So for example, the ETH that I bought on both these pots, they're not in a cold wallet. I use that as inverse collateral. So I do inverse perpetual. So I use the ETH that I bought, the spot ETH, I use that as collateral and then put a mega ETH long on, if that makes sense. So although ETH straddles my what if I'm wrong pot and straight and also trading pot. So there's a few other bits and bobs. Please don't just look at this and go, oh, I'm going to do this, because my pot changes a lot. Not too much. The TAO pot barely ever changes, but it's just this little active mess over here is. I don't know why it's not showing others, because I've got a bit of LPT as well. And yeah, hey ho. So that's that. Long story short, things are bullish, folks. Any pullbacks like this is just short-term pullbacks. Like, yeah, just be net bullish now, folks. Be very bullish, and hopefully this finds you well. See you soon. Toodaloo. Have a great year. Bye.